Hi, welcome to this short session of joint movement explorations. There are more than 400 joints in the body and all of them have varying degrees of movement based upon the structure of the joint and based also on how we have been training these joints. The interesting thing about these joints is their movements. If we don't explore them on a regular basis, then we tend to lose them. The other interesting thing about joint movements is that even though most of us might not want to do anything to explore the whole range of movement of all the joints, we might just have necessity and need for only a shorter range of the joint movements. The inconvenient truth is that to continue to use those shorter range movements for a long time to come without getting injured, without coming across further restrictions, we do have to explore the entire range of joint movements. Now, the movements we are going to do today we are not going to be doing it for exhaustively for all of the joints of the body. I have made a selection, so it's a subset which are important for activities like running, for walking, for cycling, swimming. Most of these are activities where a shorter range of movement is done repeatedly over and over again. I have seen people doing some of these movements without paying too much attention to form. Now, especially in these movements, the God really does exist in the details. So let us go through them, being a little more specific about how things are to be moved, what is to be moved, and very importantly, what is not to be moved. So I will give a short demonstration, then we will do things together, and hopefully after watching this a few times, you will be able to do these movements by yourself without having to look at any device or any recording at all. I am using a couple of things. I am using a foam yoga block. It can be a thick book also, and I am using a folded blanket which I will use as a head support. Let us start. So, the first set of movements will be for the cervical vertebrae. There are 7 cervical vertebrae, and even though we can't really see all 7 of them moving in this first movement that we are going to do, our attempt will be to move all of them. Show you something. This is just a demonstration. So, I have just kept a piece of belt here, and like a harness almost, I lift my own neck up. So, look at the length of the neck. When we do this, what we are going to do now, this is what we are going to do. We have to remember that that is the length of the neck, and we are trying to maintain that neck length. We should not do this by shortening and cramping the neck. One, it's not a very effective way of working this movement. Secondly, if you have any cervical condition, degeneration, that will definitely get worse. So, this is a rather important instruction. So, we are going to do this. We will take the chin down towards the chest, and then we will go to the side, and then we will go to the back. So, this back is the trickiest. When we go to the back, it's not a dropping of the head and a lifting of the shoulder. When we go to the back, remember that harness which was pulling your neck up. So, try and maintain that length of the neck while you look up towards the ceiling, and then from again there you go to the other side and come down to the starting position. That is the first set of joints we are working on. We take a stance in all of these. There is a specific stance that we take where things that we are not working on, we try to keep them as stable, as still as possible, and a large part of the efficacy of this action comes from that. Right now, since we are only going to work with the neck, I am taking a wide legged standing stance which feels quite stable, and I will also try my best to immobilize everything else neck down, so that only this part moves. The other thing, in addition to maintaining stability in the rest of the body, The other thing that is really important for efficacy in these movements is that the movements have to be really smooth and have to be really slow. So, we all have a natural pace of moving, we have to slow it down. Think of driving a car very, very slowly. Also, think of not there being any bumps and jerks for anybody that is sitting inside the car. So, we cannot suddenly start driving faster, or we cannot suddenly slow down. So, as far as possible, maintaining constant speed, constant pace, and that pace has to be really slow. Having something that you can hug to yourself like this, it gives added stability to the chest, to the shoulder and the upper back, so that those parts they don't move. We are going to make 3 circles one way and then 3 circles the other way. We'll start first by going towards the right. Let's start. Take your stance. You can face the device. As you're doing, don't face the device because your eyes will need to be turned in some other direction, especially for this one. So, chin drops towards the notch between the collarbones. Remember the length of the neck that has to be maintained. Going to the right. The right ear comes to the right shoulder. Now, don't just drop your skull down towards the shoulder and don't lift the shoulder up towards the skull. Maintain the length of the neck and circle around to the left shoulder. The left ear comes towards the left shoulder, the shoulder does not lift up, and then circle to the starting position. Let us continue 2 more circles. Slow, even, smooth circles. That's 2. Imagine that's my 3 circles going one way. Yours could be slightly faster or could be slightly slower. It need not be exactly at the same pace, but maintain your pace. Let's do the 3 circles going the other way. Going to the left. Then the right ear comes towards the right shoulder. And then the chin comes down towards the notch between the collarbones. Once again, going to the left. Keep the legs stable, keep your hips stable, keep your shoulders, upper back, nothing should move. That's my second circle. And continue for the third one. Slow, even. Think of driving a car very slowly at a constant velocity. That's the end of my third circle. And then lift the head up. We go from the cervical vertebrae to the rest of the spine. So, this time we are not moving the neck too much, although it will move, but we are trying to move everything from the neck down to the end of the spine. I am still going to continue hugging this block and take a quick look, then we do this together. Again, wide legged stance, we don't move the shoulder blades, anything, we are just trying to isolate and move from the spinal vertebrae. So, first of all, flex completely. Think of flexing all of the vertebrae of the spine, like you are making a tight spiral. Don't start bending from the hip too much, it's just the spine. And then with that we will go to the right. Just like the neck vertebrae, we have to maintain the length of the back while you extend the back, and then going to the other side and coming to the front. Yes, let us start. So, let us do once again 3 circles going from the right, and then we will change direction and do 3 circles going from the left. Flexion, that means we round the back. Get ready? Yes, round each of the vertebrae from where the neck ends all the way till the end of the spine, but not the hip. And let us start by going to the right. So, laterally go to the right, then extend back. Don't drop on your lower back, which is for many of us the weak part of the back. Don't just drop on it. Laterally go to the left and to the front. Are you maintaining constant speed, and is that a really slow speed? For the second circle, laterally to the right, extend the spine. Spinal extension is like a, spinal extension is a back arch. To the left, and then curl to the front. Third circle in this direction, laterally to the right. Extend the spine, maintain the hips and the buttocks in a stable position, maintain the legs stable, laterally to the left and flex. Come back to the center, change direction, laterally to the left, extend, laterally to the right, legs steady, flex. To the left, extend, to the right, flex. No jerks, no shortcuts around angles that feel uncomfortable. Extend, to the right and flex, and then come up. Yes, the other joint that I have picked for today is the shoulder joint, and this is how it's going to go. So, we will stand again, we will take a wide stance. As I start with the right shoulder, I am mirroring you. I am keeping my left hand here on the right rib cage, just to give myself a feedback, because I am not supposed to move from the rib cage. I am only supposed to move that right shoulder. So, nothing else should move. The leg should not move, the hip should not move, the spine should no longer move, only the shoulder moves. And this is the circle that the shoulder is capable of. Quick demonstration, then we do it together. So, first we will bring the right arm across our front body, and then we will start circling it up, keeping the arm extended. So, remember that nothing else is supposed to move. Slow, even movement. When I have gone about this much, now my arm is stuck here, it can't move anymore. What do? I turn, roll the upper arm. So, this entire upper arm muscle has to roll, your bicep, tricep, everything has to roll as the arm starts to now go back. Now, this is the tricky part where you have to stabilize your ribs, because if we don't, then it combines with a spinal movement and it goes like this, and it feels like I am doing a lot, and actually I am not. So, ribs don't move. We take the arm back as much as it will, only from a shoulder movement. Continue to spiral that upper arm. When your arm comes back to your side, notice how the palm is now turned away from me. And then we go back same way. So, I went till here, now my arm is stuck. So, I have to once again roll the upper arm, roll the upper arm, continue to roll the upper arm as the arm comes back overhead and comes back to the starting position. That was the demonstration. Let us do it now together. We are doing twice on the right side and then twice on the left side. Twice meaning once back, once to the front, so that's once. Take your left palm and hold your right ribs. We are going to do our best not to let those right ribs move. The right arm comes from the front. Squeeze it into the body and then start. Slow, even movement. The elbow joint stays straight. Feel the bone of the upper arm really starting to rotate in its own socket. Come till where you can go, arms overhead, where you get stuck, then start rolling the upper arm. Notice the palm, how it is now twisting, how it is revolving, spiraling. Keep rolling from the upper arm and start moving back. That's half. And reverse. Wherever you get stuck, roll the upper arm. Continue. Slow, even movement. That is one. Second circle. Take the arm across the body, keep the elbow fully extended. Leg should not move, hip should not move. Overhead arm, see where you get stuck. From there, roll the upper arm, the bicep and the tricep. Let your palm spiral. Rib should not move in this backward arm position. That's 1.5. And reverse. No change in speed. Spiral the upper arm. And release. That's the right shoulder. Let's do the left shoulder. So you brace your right hand into the left outer ribs. Cross the left arm across with the elbow straight. Squeeze the left arm into the chest and then start. Slow, even and slow. If there is any shoulder constriction, if it's feeling like it is getting jammed somewhere, just go slightly out wider. Yes, so if you have a shoulder impingement, any kind of shoulder pain, your shoulder circles might be smaller, that's fine. Don't go into areas that have a lot of pain or discomfort. You can work around them. Spiral. Reverse. Second circle. The right hand on the left rib, giving feedback so that the rib does not start to turn. Reverse. Spiral the upper arm. And going to the last half. And release. The next set of joints that I have picked are in fact joints that are heavily involved in all of these activities. So it makes sense to address them also for very different reasons. Let's start with this largest one here, the hip joint. I am going to do this in the lying down position, in a sideways lying down position. and I will use a head support. This can be a pillow, and I will show you a couple of angles because it really is a three-dimensional movement, and to show it clearly on a two-dimensional screen is a little difficult, but let's see. Yes, so this is a demonstration. We lie down like this with the legs bent, and then I am working on this leg now, the hip which is on top, and we will lift it up. Now once again it is only the hip socket that we are trying to move and not our spine. So I am not opening up. If I do not open up, I can actually go only this much. So we go till however much we can go, we open the leg out to the side, and then just like your arm you start to revolve it, and with that take the thigh back and then bring the leg to the front. The hip joint and the shoulder joint are similar because they are both ball and socket joints, but the shoulder joint has a lot more range of movement. The hip joint will have a relatively much smaller range of movement, but in both cases it is possible to fake it, to start moving from other things. So we have to be attentive that that is not what we are doing. Let me show you once again. So first we take the knee in, then we open up, then we start taking the thigh back, and you will really start feeling it in your hip socket. So the leg is staying bent throughout, I am not straightening the leg. You do not have to squeeze it in, but let it be relatively 90-degree-ish bent, and then we come back to the starting position. So just quickly take a look at what often goes wrong with this one. Yes, so this is where this one can often go wrong. We flex the hip in and I start taking it out. Now if I am not careful, it is very tempting to just work from the rib. I feel like I am moving the hips a lot, but actually it is my spine that is moving. And see this, this is something you can also try, because if you are working on your own, it is often difficult to diagnose. So I have placed this block behind me and it is a marker. Now when I lift the hip up and I start taking back, now at the moment I start moving from my spine, you will notice that the block drops. So that is the indicator that I have now gone on to the spine. So that should not happen. So you can place something right up against your hip socket as you lift up, and as you start to extend, that object should not topple, and that tells you that yes, indeed you are working from your hips and not from your spine. I hope that made sense. Let us start now. So we are doing 2 rounds on the going one direction and then 2 rounds going the other direction. We will start by moving our right hip. Yes, so I am mirroring you, I am actually moving my left hip. Let us start. The head is supported with a blanket, so that the head is not hanging down, because it gets really uncomfortable on the neck. And I am holding this foam block in front of me with my hands just to bring some stability to the arms, the shoulders, the upper back and the chest, so that none of these things move. Let us start. Right hip. Flex it into the chest, squeeze it into the chest. So slow, even. Start opening it out to the side, and then start taking the thigh back. Remember that imaginary block behind you should not topple. Take the thigh as far back as possible without going from the spine, and then bring the knee back towards the chest. From there open it out to the side, and then start taking the thigh back. The leg stays bent throughout. Bring it back in to the chest. Changing the directions now. So, from the knee coming to the chest, going towards taking the thigh back. This is called a hip extension. From there, start opening the knee out to the side. Don't tip the hip back and bring the knee back to the chest. Continue for the last cycle. Slow, even. Slow, constant speed. If you are doing it correctly, you can really feel the corners of your hip joint, maybe for the first time. Release. Let's go over to the other hip. So, stabilize the shoulder, the chest, the upper back, the ribs, nothing else should move. Bring the knee up to the chest. The leg will stay bent throughout. Open it out to the side without tilting from the spine. Extend the hip, that means the thigh starts to go back. Don't straighten the leg out, the leg stays bent. And then bring it back to the chest. Constant velocity, low velocity. Continue for the second circle. Take the thigh back. Take the knee in towards the chest, and that's the end of my 2 circles going one way, and I am changing direction. You can be slower than me. That will be in fact better if you can be even slower. But don't change your pace. Extend the hip, lift it up, and then bring the knee towards the chest. Continue for the last circle. Extend up to the side, flex the knee into the chest, and then release. Come up. The last joint that we are going to look at is the ankle joint, and if we can do this seated on the floor. It's just a little more comfortable when we are seated on a chair. So sit back on the chair. We will do our best not to move anything else except for that ankle joint. So I am going to hold with my hands. That's the shin bone. This is the knee. So we don't want to make circles like this where the entire lower leg is moving. I am going to try my best to only move the ankle. Now the ankle is capable of these various movements. It can do this, go slightly out, slightly in, and it can do this. So we will combine all of this and make it into a circle. You will notice that at some points of the circle it will feel very jagged. We don't have enough movement. Some points, some parts of the segment, it feels quite smooth. Again, our attempt will be to maintain constant velocity and a very slow constant velocity. We are again doing 2 circles going one way, 2 circles going the other way. Stabilize by somehow holding your shin. We don't want the whole shin to move, we only want the ankle to move. And let's start with the right leg. I am mirroring you. So start with the foot in a neutral position and then take the toes in towards the shin. We can start by going towards the outer edges, towards the outside of the foot. Move the toes back towards the shin. From there start to go towards the little toe side of the foot. Hold the shin. We don't want the whole shin to move, and you will be very tempted to move the shin because this has very little movement. Continue. plantar flexion, that's what this is called, and then going towards the big toe side. That was one circle. Towards the shins, toes towards the shin, towards the little toe, towards the little toe, plantar flexion, circle towards the big toe. Change the direction towards the big toe. Notice also that I am not distorting the foot, I am not twisting it. Towards the shin, towards the big toe, towards the little toe, toes towards the shin. Release, change the side. Let's do the left foot. So, I am holding the shin to make sure it does not move. Let's start by pulling the toes in towards the shins. Let's go towards the big toe. Smooth, slow circle towards the big toe, towards the shin, towards the little toe. Extend the toes away from the shin, towards the big toe, little toe, toe away from shin, big toe, shins, change direction, big toe, toes away from shin, go towards the little toe, toes up towards the shin, and continue for one more circle. Big toe, toes away from the shin towards the little toe and towards the shin, and that is it. We only dealt with a subset of joints in this session. Each of these joints we can definitely add a circle in each way. Very useful movements have to be done with extreme sensitivity. They not only sensitize us to these little imbalances, stiffnesses that exist in various corners of the joint, they also start to correct those imbalances and stiffnesses. Thank you.